You're tuned into the Iceman Show. I'm your host, the Iceman. Just wanted to do a quick video. For some reason, every time I try to do a video on those two demonic white supremacist females that did a Thelma Louise and ran off that cliff, for some reason the video won't record, and I'm just frustrated. So now I got to use my cell phone to do it, which is something I really don't want to do, but I have to do it. Anyway, before I get into this video, people have been sending me emails about the Patreon situation. I'm shutting down that Patreon page because I didn't set it up properly, and it's a little confusing, and I'm just going to go in and delete it. I'll probably get it done this weekend. So don't go to Patreon. If you want me to do a video or lecture on a topic of your choice, go to asktheiceman.com, scroll down to the donate page, and click on the donate button, and go ahead and donate at least $30, and then send me an email and tell me what topic you want me to do a video or lecture on. So go to asktheiceman.com to do that. Also, get my new book, The Game of Life According to the Iceman, Volume 1. If you want to get information on how to go about dating, how to deal with white supremacy in the workplace and in American society, on your travels around this country, and you want to get information on how to get your life together, buy my book, The Game of Life According to the Iceman, Volume 1. And you can get it paperback, or you can get it on Kindle or tablet format at Amazon.com, or you can go to AskTheIceman.com and get an autographed paperback copy of my book, The Game of Life According to the Iceman, Volume 1. Just scroll down to Add to Cart, go ahead and do the PayPal thing, and from there I'll get an email, and then from there I will send your book out. Okay? If you don't hear from me within a week, send me an email, and then I'll go from there, and I'll make sure that you get your book. Because sometimes the system doesn't send me an email when people buy the book directly from AskTheIceman.com. Anyway, I wanted to do a quick video because, like I said, for the past 3 weeks I've been trying to do this video, and every time I do it, it doesn't come out. It doesn't come out for some reason. I don't know what the hell's going on. Anyway, those two white supremacist females that did a Thelma Louise and killed all 6 of those black children in Mendocino, California. Let me just say this here, man. Did y'all know that the first child they fostered was a white girl? Did y'all know that? Up there in Alexandria, Minnesota. See, they used to live in North Dakota, and they went to some school up there, Northern State University, and they went up there, got their degrees, and instead of working square jobs, they went out here and started hustling children. And so this little white girl, she's in her early 20s now, but she said that they never beat her. I find this interesting. She said they never beat her. They never put their hands on her. The only thing she said that they did is they screamed at her. And she said the only reason why they took her out of the home is because she was running away and doing stuff she didn't have no business doing. So they figured she didn't know how to, she couldn't take care of, they couldn't take care of her. So they took her out of the home. So they said, okay, you know what? Let's find some soft targets. There ain't no money in fostering white kids. So they went down there to Texas and got those kids, the Hart kids. I don't know where they got the other 3 kids from. They never, see, that's the one thing about the propaganda news stations. They never go into full detail about what these people were doing. Just like the interview they did with that white woman and that man, that couple up here in Cumberland, up here about 50 miles, probably about 30 miles up the road from me, because I'm about 20 miles away from Portland. So they were up there, up there, I think it's called Cumberland. And they move to these little rural areas because they know there's going to be less oversight. Because even most big cities are reactive and not preventative. So something has to happen before CPS can come out there and investigate. And those of you who don't know, they got investigated in West Lynn, Oregon, which is about 30, I guess about 10, 15 miles southeast of Portland. So they did a CPS investigation. A lot of people don't know this. They started getting investigated in Oregon. Then they moved up here to Washington. Y'all see what they were doing? Now when they got the Hart kids, they went back up to Minnesota. And that's where they got a domestic battery or domestic assault charge on a child for beating one of the girls. And they got convicted. So once that happened, they moved all the way over here to Oregon. Because I knew they weren't from here, from this area. I knew they weren't from this area. And so what they did, they thought they were real slick. See, you have to understand these states, especially states like Texas, they're notorious for taking children out of poor homes, because they know they're less likely to fight back. So they and let me just say this here, man. Black people, get off the narcotics, man. Their mother was smoking crack. And a lot of people are saying, well, smoking crack ain't a reason to take children out the home. Yes, it is. Especially if because most crackheads neglect their children and neglect their homes. I know, because I've been around it. I've been around crackheads. They don't bathe. Sometimes they don't even eat. Everything they do is centered around getting high. And after a while, they lose their dignity and self-respect. We got to get off the narcotics, man. We got to get off the narcotics, man. I'm serious. We have to get off the narcotics. Black folks do too much drinking and drugging and turning up. And we got to cut that crap out, because it's getting us nowhere. We got to stop doing that shit, man. Anyway, they didn't beat that white girl, and they didn't physically abuse her. She said all they did was they yelled at her. She thought they were pretty decent people. So these two demons went down there to Texas and got some black kids. I don't know where they got the other 3 little half-white kids from. I don't know where they got them from. And you notice all the pictures of them, they're all grinning and they're all cheesing and grinning and looking silly and stupid and coonish. You ever see them pictures of them? Huh? Have you ever seen the pictures of these women, of the family, the ones they got posted up online? You ever seen the pictures? They all grinning and smiling. Everything's all right. You know why they do that shit? You know why the white supremacists, if you look at it, if you ever go around American society like I do, different areas, you notice that the white supremacists and the white supremacist benefactors and sympathizers, they're always smiling all the time. They do all this smiling, all this cheesing and grinning. You know why they do that? That's done to disarm you. Because they know the average person, when they see somebody smiling, they're not going to look at that person's actions. That's why when you cut the bullshit and you put these white supremacists in a position where they gotta deal with you on the real, they stop smiling and they get evil and they show their evilness. That's why I keep telling black folks America is a playground for Caucasian people. They're always enjoying themselves. They play when it's time to be white supremacists, and they play when it's time to have fun, when they're out here doing recreational stuff. And anytime that gets infringed upon, what happens? They get violent. They're women and they're men. They get violent. Or they go and call in a murder, like they'll call the popo out to have you arrested because you're saying, you're doing stuff that niggers aren't supposed to do to good Christian white folks, which is challenge white supremacy. But they do see a smile is the equivalent of putting on a show. And when you're doing all, because my ex-wife and my daughter does all this phony smiling all the time. See, this is the psychology of phoniness. Whenever you deal with people and they're doing too much smiling and being phony, that's phony. They're phony as hell. These people ain't happy. They're just trying to disarm you so you won't be smart enough to investigate and check these people. And they know this. So that's what they do. They don't care nothing about you. It's the psychology of phoniness. Be cheesing and grinning all the time so that you won't look behind the curtain from the show and check out the production and see that these people are phonies. But they kept bouncing around to these different states because they were doing wrong. And some of us are surmising that they probably killed themselves because they were doing something even more sinister to them kids. And they've only found the bodies of 4 of them. They haven't found the other 2. So there's no telling what happened to them. Maybe they were in the car, maybe they're not. Maybe they killed the other 2 children somewhere else. But I guarantee they killed all 6 of them kids. And to top it off, to be so demonic, you know what they did? They went and bought Benadryl. Now, Benadryl kind of, you can drink Benadryl and actually feel like you drunk because it makes you sleepy. And so they went and got that Benadryl elixir because when they did the autopsy, they said that they had high concentrations of Benadryl in their systems. So what they did is the two white supremacist females, they bought alcohol and got drunk, and then they gave Benadryl to all the kids, and they probably passed out in the seat and went to sleep. I guarantee that's what they did. They gave them Benadryl, made them go to sleep, and they probably were asleep anyway from all that driving. That's why they were purposely doing all that driving, to get them to go to sleep, because they knew exactly where they were going to run off the road or run off that cliff and do a Thelma Louise. And they did that foul ass shit and killed themselves and killed all them kids. So no, and you notice when they did the news stories, especially outside the Portland, Vancouver area, you know what they would, they never said anything. They never said anything. First of all, they never said nothing about the white foster kid. The second thing they never talked about was they never said that or mentioned that when that little girl jumped out that second story window to go next door, she said, my mom, and I'm paraphrasing, she said, my mom's a racist and they're beating me and starving me and won't give me any food. And these two, and they cut that part, they edited that part of the interview where that woman said that, because online, when I went to CNN.com and they had the story online, they had the story. The headline was, daughter said, one of the Hart kids said that their moms was racist and beating her and not feeding her, or not feeding them. They would do sick stuff like have them punish them by like making them lay down in the dark and not feed them. Oh, they were doing some demonic stuff to them. There's no telling what else they did to them kids, because there's a reason. Somebody calling CPS in Oregon and in Washington State, calling the CPS. That ain't enough to kill yourself. There had to be something more sinister that these women did to screw over these children. Okay? People, if you have these so-called phony white Christian Caucasian people living next to you and they got a bunch of children of color living with them, you need to keep your eye on them, because they probably doing stuff they ain't got no business doing to them kids. Because a lot of times what these white perverts would do is they'll go get they'll adopt these mixed race kids, or they'll adopt these black kids, or they'll adopt other children of color. Because I'm telling you right now, down in South San Antonio, or down in San Antonio or Stank Antonio, there's a lot of Mexican children who are in the foster care system. I know because when I was in my master's in social work program, some of the fellow students of mine, they already worked in that industry. And they were like, man, ooh, boy, if I could talk about some of the cases, some of them people be doing some demonic stuff to the Mexican kids. So it ain't just black kids, but again, we just care about the black ones. Okay? When you see these phony white folks, these grinning white folks, because remember, when you see all the pictures of them, they're all grinning. They got all these silly hats on. They got these silly necklaces on and silly, stupid T-shirts. They all got the same dumb T-shirts on. They're all at all the liberal rallies, fighting, so-called fighting for justice. Here they are at a Michael Brown. The 2004, they was up here in Portland at a Michael Brown protest talking about injustice and all that, and they over there doing the stuff they was doing to them kids. And if you remember, if you see the picture of Devontae Hart online where he's holding a sign that says free hugs, what black person do you know would have their black child out there looking stupid like that, looking ridiculous like that? And the look on that boy's face is utter horror. It's horror on his face. He looked emotionally distressed. He was underweight. All the kids were malnourished and underweight. You notice that? From all that starving. And this boy is walking around with this hurt look on his face, with this dumb sign talking about free hugs, because he obviously ain't getting no hugs at home. And he has to go to a suspected white supremacist cop for a hug. And if you notice, the white cop, when he's holding him, hugging him, you could tell he really don't want to hug him. But that boy is in such distress, and he's so hurt. And because this child is black, nobody saw the distress. See, somebody like me, who's been trained to see that type of stuff, I'm going to catch that kind of stuff. Okay? I'm going to catch it. And right off the bat, like I said, they got all these pictures of them looking silly, doing all this silly smiling and grinning, and yet up there in that house, they in there beating on them kids and calling them the N-word and starving them. Y'all better start paying. We got to do a better job taking care of our kids, man. Because people are saying, well, that's not right. The state of Texas took their kids. When you're smoking crack and you're neglecting your children, the state is going to come in there and take your kids. The state of Texas, in my opinion, wasn't wrong for taking them kids. Where they were wrong at is when they took them kids and the woman cleaned her act up and went to rehab, got herself together, and then temporarily they stayed with the aunt, and the aunt tried to adopt the kids. They made sure the kids there was no recourse for their mother and the father to get the kids, or the stepfather to get the kids. And there wasn't no recourse for the aunt to get the kids back. They just took the kids out and adopted them out. Because you have to understand something. These women, in a short period of time, made over $250,000. These two lazy, white, demonic females. They made over $250,000. Don't let that thought of all that money get past you. Don't let that money get past you, player. $250,000, they made that in a very short period of time. That's why they were able to rent these big, huge houses. Because I guarantee that house up the way from me, I guarantee that's a $2,500 a month rent house, even though it's out in the middle of nowhere. Maybe it was less than that. Probably maybe it might have been down to 1,500 or something like that. Maybe. And I don't know how big the house is down in West Lynn, Oregon. I never they show pictures of it, aerial pictures of it, aerial views of the house, but never no up close pictures of the house like they did up here in Washington for some reason. I don't know why. Anyway, they were being investigated by 2 states. One of them got caught a case for beating on one of the girls up there in Alexandria, Minnesota. Alexandria is 40 miles outside of Minneapolis, and it's a little bedroom community, and there's a lot of Tanger outlet shops and stuff up there. Because that's really the only thing they got popping up there. Because if you drive through there during the wintertime, it looks like a ghost town because it's just nothing up there. You go outside of Minneapolis or Duluth, you just, it's like you're in a state with no people. Because you can drive for 100 miles and not see nothing in Minnesota. So states like Minnesota and Oregon that are sparsely populated, it's easily for demonic, evil, criminal-minded people to come up here and do dirt. That's why there's so many sex offenders up there in Minnesota, and so many sex offenders and people in the witness protection program up there in Minnesota and Wisconsin, because it's sparsely populated. There ain't a whole lot of people up there, just like there ain't a whole lot of people up here. All the people are in